Has it been now a week or so in the job, and how have things changed for you and for the players in that time?
Not massively. There's obviously a bit more pressure on you to make decisions, on a daily basis and just kind of lead from the front. But in terms of how we worked every day, we've been, good in the training. The players have really responded well, and we just prepared as normal. Try to stay calm on it, not get overly emotional, and try and move on from what was a tough week last week.
How are you enjoying that pressure of making the decisions? Is this a challenge you relish?
Yeah, it's something that has been good, but ultimately you've been given the responsibility to do that. And, a club like this, then you get that opportunity, you take it and do what's right for the club and for the team. And I've got a great relationship with people around the club, the players, everything else. So it's just making sure we're clear in terms of what we want to do, how we want to prepare, and just take it from there. But the biggest thing is staying calm. We understand the position we find ourselves in, and we just got to make the most of that in terms of, improving the performances. We'd like to score more goals, and be a bit more ruthless, and just trying to add bits to that on a daily basis, which hopefully, keeps us in good form in terms of going into the game.
John, sorry, Sheila, on you go.
Do you feel it's more settled this week after all the upheaval of last week?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a big week in terms of the change. Neil stepping away, and it's addressing that, and that's an emotional time for the players and everyone involved, because as much as you try and calm things down, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of emotion and energy goes out in that. So we always knew going into the game that it was be a good challenge for us. We were confident and we knew what Aberdeen would bring. But the concern in your back of mind is, does the week take its toll? I thought for little periods of the second half that began to show a little bit. The energy levels dropped a touch, but it wasn't a massive surprise. But this week we managed to take belief and confidence from the result, take the positives out of the game. A really good training week with good intensity and good kind of focus and things, and at the same time, try and lift the spirits a bit and just breed that confidence. And that's what we've got to do now. We've got to build, and we've got to be consistent with what we're doing, and try and see where it takes us.
John, does the fact that any drop points this weekend mean that Rangers could win the league? Is that an added incentive to the players?
It might be, but again, we can't worry about what might be going on elsewhere or how it might affect anybody else. We've got to think about ourselves all the time, and that's where we're at. Ultimately, Rangers are sitting in a very strong position. If we were sitting in that position, we'd be comfortable, we'd be feeling confident. So we've got to part that. We've got to think about ourselves in terms of, right, okay, face up to the season. This is the way it's been. But what do we do going forward? And that's one, improving performances, more consistent. There was lots in the Aberdeen game I really liked, especially first half. I thought we were slick and smooth in their play, created good opportunities. And I think if we get a second goal, it's a totally different game. Going into the second half, it stays 1-0. A bit of an edge in the script, which we need to come through and have more belief in ourselves in that second half. So we've kind of spoke about that, we've addressed that, we've instilled that, tried to instill more belief and confidence in the players as the weeks went on. And we just want to show that in the performances, in Park, what might or might not be elsewhere. Obviously it might be in the back of some people's heads who have been here a long time, and if that's extra motivation, great, use it for that, but ultimately it'll not be a motivating factor going into the game.
Given the season that you've had, the fact that the Scottish Cup is returning, is that a welcome boost for you and the players, that there is something for you now to focus on?
Yeah, it is. Again, it's a trophy that we've had great success in recent seasons. It's one who obviously current holders and champions of. So it's great that we get the opportunity. It gives us something else to attack in the season and look forward to. And at the end of the day, going into a Scottish Cup final at the end of the season is always a great feeling and a great motivation. So again, if there's some form of motivation for the season now, it's very much about one, ourselves and the performances and results. But when there's silverware there to play for, then that makes it all the better.
John, Conor Hazard signed a new deal this week. How pleasing was it to see him commit his future to the club?
Yeah, it's been, he's been in talks for a little while, Conor. He's come in, he's a young goalie who, works really hard every day, really, strong on his development side of his game. Does everything they possibly can every day to come in and improve himself. And he's had a taste of first team now, which is always the first hurdle for a young player, is getting the opportunity to come in. Had some good performances, He'll own up to sell. There's parts of games that he needs to improve upon, but that will come with experience and time. And he's one who, we obviously like and hope he's got a great future here.
Obviously, Scott Bain has been the pick for the last little while. Is there any indication of Barkas might be back, having only made 6 appearances since
He's trained the last kind of day and a half. He's did a bit more. He had a kind of a niggle, which was keeping him out of training there. So he's come in the last day and a bit. He started to do a little bit more training, like a bit more training in him, and just that level. He's probably been, in terms of training wise, he's been in and out with different, little niggles and knocks. So it's just that consistency with him as well. Adaptation of, which was a big season anyway, but coming in, expected to come in and replace Fraser Foster in itself, it's a big challenge. The change of culture, the change of training, everything's there. There's a lot of challenges, and there's an adaptation period to that. Sometimes it's longer for some players than other. So it's for him, it's the consistency, in terms of how he trains and works every day to improve. And then hopefully that then means he can start progressing the way we want.
John, Odsonne Edouard's been named Player of the Month for February. You think that's a deserved accolade?
Yeah, I do. I think Odsonne of late, as much as there's more to come from him, 100%, there's still more to come. His level of performances have improved. He's scoring the goals again, which for a striker is always important. So, it's great to see it. I love working with Odsonne, have done for the whole time he's been here. In terms of just, he's talent. He's an incredibly talented footballer. He's a really intelligent footballer. He's very laid back and a calm guy. He doesn't get overly, emotional on things. And again, for him, as much as the talent he's got, it's just continually improving, and giving him that next step for him. And for him, in terms of the discussions I've had with him, it's like the talent's great. It's just that consistency and level of performance because, in my opinion, he's the best striker in the country. Just with what the profile he is and the attributes he has and what he can bring to a game. And for him, it's continually showing that on a weekly basis, and showing every day the level he can get to. Because, I've seen players in the past who have been here and have got similar levels and they kick on and do well. And for the thing for him now is just having that real killer instinct, in terms of, when he gets 5 chances in the game, he's taking 4 of them. He's taking 3 and 4 of them every week and just continually showing his level to drive and progress and be better. And if he does that, God knows where it takes him.
You say God knows where it takes him. There were reports coming from down south this morning that his former manager, Brendan Rodgers, would be interested to sign him for £15 million. Have you heard anything about that? Is that the kind of figure that the club would be looking at to sell if they had to this summer with just 1 year left on his deal?
I teed that question up perfectly for you there, didn't I?
Thanks for that.
Again, we don't have to. It's a case of when you get good, talented players, there's always interest. There always is. And that's what happens. I think you see it around Europe now in terms of, especially big clubs making moves quicker on players, especially young players. You see your Bayern Munich, especially in Germany, Bayern Munich and your Borussia Dortmund, who, moving very quickly on players and paying the fees early. So I've no doubt there'll be interest in Odsonne, as there was last season and all his time he's been here because of one of the talent he's got. But ultimately, the club will do the right thing for themselves and the club and everyone else. But we want to keep him for as long as we can because of the talent he's got and the ability he's got, because having a player like him in your squad, only makes you better. But ultimately there comes a point, whether it be contractually or the player's motivation, everything else, you have to sit down and address that. And that'll be done in the summer, but he's very focused, in terms of the way he's trained this week's been superb. He's very focused on what he can do from now to then. And then we'll deal with that in the summer.
Do you have any concerns at all, John, about the speculation that's been linked with players? Because I think Neil Lennon had said that he admitted that some of the heads were turned. Yeah,
I think obviously players, and I think what didn't help this year was the length of the transfer window. So that period when you close it off the end of August, pretty much as the season's just getting up and running, it brings closure to it. It brings a focus, and you know where people know where they stand. Whereas when it was dragging on, into October, then that longer period, the uncertainty's there and players are kind of getting their heads turned at times. But it's part of football. That's what we've got to deal with and manage. And the players have got to, realise that, no matter what's going on elsewhere, that while you're here and you're at a club like Celtic, you've got to put in performances, you've got to work for the team and you've got to do the right thing for the club while you're here. And the players, and the men have pretty much shown that respect, especially, in terms of parking their own egos in terms of, this last week especially, everybody wants to do the right thing for the team and the club at the moment, and that's what we've got to bottle up and move that forward.
When I spoke to you after the 1-0 win against Aberdeen last week, you said that you knew you had things to work on this week. Can you tell us what you have been working on and whether that's been successful?
Yeah, it's been a good week for us in terms of training. It's given us loads of contact time with the players, a lot we can cover in that time. And we've had a real reflection in the game, both as a staff and with the team. And again, the thing is to identify what makes you good. I said this last week, and there was lots of parts of the Aberdeen game where we've seen that. So again, it was utilising that and showing the players, look, this is when you do things right and you do what we want to do and how we want to play. This is what works for us and what does well. So we managed to reinforce that in the training pitch in terms of being more ruthless at the top end. We get into some good positions last weekend, especially first half, and we weren't, killing the game off with second or third goal. Even a small thing like the very end of the game, the counter attack we have between, we get a good pass into Odson and it's him and Sorrow in a 2v1 situation in the box. We've got to kill them off. Regardless if it's like the 40th minute or the 90th minute, we've got to take them, and that just breeds a mindset, of being that real killer. Regardless what part of the game it is, and doing the right things more often than not. So again, we've worked a bit in terms of that final third stuff, where we can score more goals, because we need to do that, and just reinforcing the positives from the defensive side of the game, because as a team we've defended in the main strongly in the last few games in terms of compact and doing our jobs. It's just reinforcing that and fine-tuning the details of that.
John, in terms of players coming in, and if we presume that the search for new players is ongoing, how difficult is that to look for players when the new manager isn't in yet?
Yeah, and that's something the club will address. It was obviously ongoing. While Neil was here, we were obviously involved in discussions in terms of, where Nick Hammond and his team are at, what they've been looking at, what we need. And there'll have to be changes, as there always are in the summer, in terms of, player pool. So again, the club are still an ongoing process. And that's the thing about, the club, around the management side of it in terms of football. There's structures there and departments in place that, continually do the work. Mm-hmm. And then, whatever happens, with new manager, then they'll have to make that decision alongside the club when it comes. So everything's still ongoing in the background, so that whatever happens, there's obviously food for thought there and decisions to be made.
Is it a case of getting as wide a spread of players as possible to give any new manager as broad a scope as possible to pick one, to pick some of those?
Yeah, you do that. Ultimately as well, that for Celtic, there's a certain type of player and a certain type of coach who would take the team and play in a certain way. Celtic's always a team who want to, have good attacking players, creative players, goal scorers, players who can, have a bit more 1v1 ability in certain positions. So there's that side of it. So that flair and attacking intent, but also any coach or manager will have their own take on that as well. But for Celtic, there's a certain style of player, and obviously then fine tweaks or fine different types of profile slightly in terms of what one manager will like to the next.
Can I ask you about a couple of players who haven't been playing recently, James Forrest and Greg Taylor? There's an update.
Greg's still injured. Obviously picked up a thigh injury against Ross County, and he's not trained this week, so we'll still be missing Greg. And James Forrest, he's been out for a long time, but he's come through the week really well. He's trained really well all week. So I'll probably sit with James tomorrow before training, see where he's at, how he's feeling. But it'd be great to have him part of it again, because we have missed him. But I just want to make sure that James has got the confidence and that trust in himself after being out for a long period of time, that he's good to go if called upon. So we'll address that tomorrow. But in terms of the training, it's been really good for him. As a team, we've missed him. His numbers in terms of goals and assists and what he brings the team for the past few seasons have been terrific. And we've certainly missed that. There's been periods in games and specific games in general where you need someone who can unlock, and have that bit of individual brilliance. So between him and even a Mikey Johnson and guys like that missing, who are your eliminators, as much as a team can set up in a structure to block you up, if you get James and you get guys like Mikey Johnson and your wingers, in dangerous areas, 1v1 with fullbacks, then that can break any structure. So we've missed that at times this year. So it's, it's exciting to have James back in training. You know, he's certainly showed some glimpses of what he's capable of, and we'll just address tomorrow whether he's, you know, good to go or not.